Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. My guest this week, he played in the NBA, he played professional basketball, but now for a very long time, he's been on the sidelines as a coach throughout the league. Been a good friend over the years as well. I welcome in Elston Turner. Elston, good to see you again.
Thank you, Dave. Good to see you too, man. Long time.
I know your break during the offseason probably seems shorter and shorter, but my goodness, your life has been basketball, Elston. I know you entered the league in the early 80s and played professional basketball internationally through to the mid-90s, but ever since then, you've been going every single year. Does it feel like you've been in basketball this long?
Does it feel like it? It feels like longer. No, it does. It comes and goes. During the season, it's a grind, and the grind is always there. And then you long for the off season, and then when the off season does come, you get bored and ready for the season to start again. So, um, basketball is what I've been doing all my life, like you mentioned, and it's what I know, and I'm still enjoying it and looking forward to the season after season, man.
Yeah, currently you're with the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that has shown a lot of promise, a lot of good young talent, a mix kind of young and old. What's it been like coaching there?
Oh, it's been great. I'm with a good group of guys. Chris Finch, man, has been unbelievable. He invited me in to work with him and his staff, and Minnesota, so to speak, has been what do you call like a football city over the years, and we're putting basketball back on the map, so to speak. So a lot of just a good group of guys, man, players too, and when you get players that have a good a good sense of selfness. All right, it makes it easy to work. The working environment has been just outstanding.
You have seen the growth in many ways of basketball. So when I ask you as a player, when you came in the 80s to when you're coaching now in the 2020s, what's the biggest part of the game itself, the professional game that has changed?
Well, the rule book, number one, the rules very much have changed, as well as the heavy emphasis on analytics. And those two things I think has changed the game. Rules being, there was a different type of physicality, hands on, the hand checking rules, all this kind of stuff was normal. Now they took a lot of that out with hopes to speed up the game, with hopes to improve scoring and that kind of thing. So that's one area. The other area is positions. Nowadays there's more emphasis on multiple position players,
Yeah.
and the term in around the NBA is positionless players. When back in the day there was, I mean, the big guys played center and they were down under the basket and you gave them the ball and they would beat you up to score 2 points, in the painted area. Those days are not around as much now. No team, just very, very few teams have their big men down low, and obviously the physicality is gone. But most of the 7 footers now are required to have a different skill set. A different skill set. They're playmakers. They're 3 point shooters, and these are 6'11", 6'10", 6'9" guys. That didn't happen a lot back in the day. So the game has changed. Also, there's heavy emphasis analytically on the 3 point shot,
Yeah.
which, it was big back then too, but not nowhere near as much now. Uh, the 2 point shot, which I made a living at and so many others did, is just non existent almost. You take a shot in the paint and the, coach chewing you out like, well, what you doing?
When you're making coaching decisions, you talk about this being an analytical day and age. What is the easiest decision to make based on stats? And maybe on the flip side, what is a part of the game that really, no matter how many stats or data you have, you still have to make a gut call?
Well, I mean, the easiest part, I mean, you can coach by your analytics, or you can coach by your feel, and I'm just an old school guy, as you mentioned. You know what I mean? If there's a 3-on-2 fast break,
Yeah,
three guys versus two, you go in and get you a layup, a 2 point. Now you see most players running to the 3 point line with an advantage.
yeah,
And I've never seen that before. I've never ever, I mean, it doesn't make, it just doesn't make coaching sense. So I usually make my decisions based on a gut feeling, based on my experience. And sometimes the analytics will come second because I've got a good feel for the game. I've got a good feel for players. I got a good feel for
you do.
situations. And, you know, the analytics, even though it's popular, is somewhere secondary in some of my decision making.
It seems to me what you're saying is you all have some pretty interesting discussions at times when you're all coming up with what might be a collective decision on the fly, of course.
Oh, no question. On the fly, meaning at timeouts,
Yep. Yeah.
60. Yeah, and you only have a limited amount of time to discuss a lot of different things in 60 seconds. And then in our coaches' meetings, they're always fun. You throw out ideas, and everybody else has ideas. By the way, another change is back when I played and when I first came into the league, there was the head coach and maybe two assistants,
Yeah. How
maybe
many do you
two.
have now?
Well, we've got in our coaches' meetings, sometimes we have 12 to 15 people, 6 or 7 assistants, a couple of video guys,
Yep.
player development players, coaches. And it's a lot of ideas being tossed around, is what I'm getting at. But the more ideals, the better. I just don't know how a head coach decipher through all the ideals and come up with a decision, but that's his job to do that. And Chris Fitch and all my other coaches, they've, hats off to them. When you're a head coach, you have a lot of final decisions to be made, big
Yep.
ones.
You know what? I love talking about your career spanning so many decades, and that's not just me saying you're old, Elston. What I think is that's experience. But when you're sitting around just like we did, and you start ranking players, okay, I'm not going to ask you the greatest of all time, but what is the parameters that you guys who have been around the league long enough realize that you just can't rank them because when we see a good young player now, we want to immediately put them ahead of some pretty famous guys from
Right,
the
right.
70s, 80s, and 90s.
Well, I think each era has their own unique players,
Yeah,
and you have to go by era. I mean, it's unbelievable to me how a player can average a triple double for a long time
yeah.
and not be considered in. Oscar Robertson was amazing in that era, but to average a triple double,
Mm,
that is, I mean, Westbrook just recently broke it. That's crazy. So he has to be considered. But when me personally, when I look at players and start evaluating them, I try to look at the total game. Number one, both ends of the court.
yeah,
Both ends. You have to play both ends, man. I mean, you get paid a lot of money to put the ball in the hoop. But every time people mention a championship, they say defense matters.
yeah.
Yeah. So what about the other end you know what I mean? So I look at the guys and I still say, and this is my opinion,
Sure.
and I played with and against Michael Jordan, and he played both ends of the court. Both ends.
Yeah,
I mean, both ends. I mean, he played some D, and you just didn't get recognized for that because his offense just overshadowed what he did on the offensive end. Overshadowed everything. So he'd be my number one pick. And although we do have a guy that has been my favorite guy to coach, named Anthony Edwards, who was a close. I mean,
Ooh.
he is a highlight film man, so he's close. We just have to get him going on both ends of the court. And but each era has its own unique. all-star, Hall of Famers,
Yeah.
so it would be hard just to rank them and say this guy is much better than the other guy when he played in a certain era.
Yeah.
The era I'm talking about is when the Detroit Bad Boys used to pull you out of the air and throw you down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't see that now. And those players will come back. It was a test to see what you were made of. You're going to come back in there again and get thrown down again. No, now you get tossed out of the game,
Yeah.
suspended, ejected for a flagrant foul. There's nowhere near that. So the eras and the styles of basketball is different. Who knows how today's players would respond back then?
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is I love what you said when you talk about the Detroit Bad Boys. You're also talking about an era where one team hated the other team. The fan base hated the other team's
Oh,
fan
yeah.
base. This is different now. Is a good different or a bad different that you all may not have those hated rivalry teams anymore, Elston?
Well, what is different is this, and there's still rivalries
Okay.
today, and there's some fans that don't like each other. There's some players that don't like each other. But I can remember where there was one time where the players did not want to pile up on the same team as another player.
Yeah.
They wanted to play against him. Michael Jordan, that I remember, and all these guys, he didn't want to play with Magic. He didn't want to play with Bird. He didn't want to go to Detroit and play with Isaiah. He wanted to kick their butt
Yeah.
opposite them. And now, a lot of players, for better for worse, team up. They search. They seemingly they
Yeah.
search around the league to see where they can best fit in and win a championship and go play with the team that has already 2 or 3 all-stars on it. And that to me is you know at some point it waters down the league because each team should have an all-star on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
not one team with 5 all-stars, and that's part of the change, the trend, that just did not happen back
Back.
in the
Yeah.
good old days. It's an old saying, but back when I played.
You know what? And when you're talking about styles that are different and players that are different, I do want to give a shout out to the players that you're currently coaching right now. And I just don't mean on your team, but that you're seeing and scouting against across the league. What sometimes do you shake your head at, Elston, that says, wow, these young guys, they can do this very well? What kind of a player now, physically and ability wise, are you seeing now in the 2020s?
Well, first of all, the physicality, the athleticism
Yeah.
is just through the roof. Guys. I mean, they can run. They jump high. Everybody seems to be dunking with ease. The skill level from the standpoint of long range shooting is, it amazes me because pretty soon I'm expecting him to put a 4-point line in. I mean, players are 3 feet behind the 3-point line,
Yeah.
making them, and you have to guard them out there. So the shooting is just crazy, and it's part of the reason that the league has changed to long range shooting, more spacing, more ball movement, that kind of thing. So those areas, today's players they're just good athletes, good
Yeah.
skilled ball handlers and scorers.
You know, you know very well, but some of my days traveling with teams, you'd get a little extra time on the road, and so we'd have some debates. And the great Kobe Bryant I would love talking to him about the difference between the old school players and the new players. Now, he said that the reason why he was able to stay healthy was not only taking good care of himself, but the growing up, he played multiple sports, which trained in a different way multiple muscles. What did you play growing up to become a professional basketball player, Elston? Did you play various sports? Because not a lot of kids do that now.
No, I was much like Kobe just described. I tried to play as the season changed. I changed uniforms. I played everything.
Yeah.
Number one, it kept me out of the streets, out of trouble, off the streets and out of trouble. And number two, I agree wholeheartedly with the point that one sports training and special um, athleticism helps basketball.
Yeah.
So I played baseball, football. I was a really, really good football player until high school. I mean, all the way to high school, and played in on both ways at the offense and defense. And it helped me to not be afraid to hit or get hit. Baseball helped me with the eye-hand coordination. Track was just the endurance, and I was a lover of boxing.
Oh,
My father had a speed bag in the house, and I would just go through boxing workouts. And the speed bag part just helped me with my with my hands on defense and hand speed, hand quickness, and this kind of thing, which you definitely need with the jump rope. The skipping the rope help you with the footwork in basketball. So one sport does help the other sports, and I would encourage all kids to play,
okay.
especially when you're young. Play as many sports as you can, and then decide on what you really, really like as you get older.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, and we're getting to that part where, I know there's some parents watching this. I know there's some young kids. So when you give your most important lessons to kid at basketball camps and everything, what are the one or two things that you definitely emphasize to young players?
Well, number one is be solid in all the fundamentals,
Yeah.
and then branch out on that. That you got to have a good foundation, just like a house, a home. You have to be on solid ground. Work on all fundamentals, and don't be limited from the standpoint of whatever you can do going one direction. Be able to do it going the other direction. There's so many times in our meetings at the pro level, we talk about guys can't go this way or they can't do this, and we got to force them to do what he can't do. Well, and there's, the great Hall of Famers that can do, whichever way you send them, that's the way
Yeah.
they're going to go. They can,
Yeah.
there's no limitations there. So don't be limited. Work toward that. Whatever you can do with your right hand, do with your left, and that kind of thing. We also, uh, tell them develop and like an edge. What
Yeah.
is it that's going to make you stand out? Because at some point, all the talent level is going to be the same,
Yeah.
meaning that people on the other team can shoot.
Yeah.
People on the other team, we see this in the NBA all the time, especially in the playoffs. What's going to give you the edge when the other team is or the other players are just as good as you?
Yeah.
So the edge, in my opinion, who has the bigger heart? Who
Yeah.
wants it the most? That separates good players.
That's
Who's
awesome.
going to dive out on the floor after the ball? Who's going to look at it and pick
Yeah.
it up? Those kind of things. Yeah, I mean, it makes a difference. And management also look for these kind of players.
Yeah.
What do you have on the inside? What kind of dog do you have in you? Um, um, those are the kind of things that win championships when all the talent is equal. Is who really wants it more. And then we touch a whole lot on outside the lines,
Good.
obviously, and my main thing there is just to live your life so your autograph is wanted and not your fingerprints. What can you
Hey,
say?
everybody can understand what you're meaning there, right?
I hope so.
No, those are great lessons. Elston Turner we're having a fun conversation. And I do want to say that one of the great things is I got a chance to be shoulder to shoulder a little bit more often in the late 1990s in Portland, Oregon. I was covering and right around the Trailblazers each and every day. Elston, there's no greater time for me than you may have had the smallest office for the coaches to dress in afterwards. And of course, and I would come in right after the game. And so we'd all be in there. But between you and Musselman back in the day, the late great
Yeah.
Bill Musselman and Dunleavy, and we had some great conversations, and I love picking your brain. I remember a guy that many young fans don't remember, but you remember Arvydas Sabonis. Tell us what it was like to have a big player like that, who we were seeing in the latter part of his career. We didn't even get to enjoy the greatness of him early on in his overseas career.
Well, this is true. I mean, there was a lot of stories saying that he was just 10 times better than he was when he got to the NBA. I guess injuries and bad Achilles or whatever had slowed him down.
Yeah,
But he is, if you can picture Uh, Jokic,
Yeah.
back, I guess we're talking, I got to Portland in 96,
Okay. Yep.
97,
That's when
98,
I got there.
99. Yeah, we were there together. And so he was a passing big man that can shoot threes as well as get in the paint. And so in today's game, I'm picturing him right now just being a star player in today's game because he could play around that perimeter as a big, and as well as if you need him to go inside, just to go inside. But he spoke broken English a little bit. And at the end of the season, I don't even know if he knew my name. He'd always call me coach. Hey, coach. "Hey, man, what's my name? Coach." But we just had a good time, man.
No, now I don't want anybody to think that this isn't true because you probably saw it more than me. You remember, as big as he was, he could stand at the top of the circle, and behind his back, he could throw a bounce pass to the deep corner to somebody spotting up for a three. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he was a passer now. He could pass the basket. All you had to do was move
Yeah.
and keep your eyes open because he'll hit you in the head if you did not. And I played over yeah, well, I coached uh, uh, quite a few passing big men, like Chris Webber,
Yeah.
Vlade Divac, and guys bigger guys that can pass. And Arvydas Sabonis, man, was one of the best passers, the best passing big man that I've seen.
And you mentioned Jokic, and we've seen so many players come to America, bringing an amazing game from overseas. You got a chance as a player to play overseas as well. Why did the game advance so much? And we saw so many players great at skills that were maybe coming a little slower to American players.
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. I know that they were more when I went overseas. It was just practice, 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 shooting, shooting, shooting. They would
Yeah.
shoot for hours and hours and hours, and the European players always could shoot. They really could, shoot the basketball. And then came the more um skilled players as far as ball handling and size and the Dirk Nowitzkis and it just evolved just like
Yeah.
anything else. I mean, they are workers. They work. I mean, training camp, we were running hills like the military, just
Yeah.
mountains. I'm talking about mountains, jogging up the mountain. I mean, who does that in basketball?
No.
In practice. And you mentioned earlier in our conversation, one of the differences in the NBA is training camp has whittled down. We went 2 days, like for a week, 2 or 3 weeks um, when I was playing, and this is what I saw in Europe. They would really practice 2 or 3 days. I mean, 2 times a day all season, basically. You shoot in the morning, go back and practice in the evening. That's all season long. Unheard of in the NBA.
Yeah. No, no doubt. All right. I usually end the podcast by playing a little rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you a few interesting questions. One of note, I have to say I'm awfully biased towards Elston Turner, and every time there's been a position open as the head coach, I always say I hope Elston is on that list. You've been talked to and interviewed many times. Elston, has it been disappointing that you haven't been able to be a head coach at that
It
for as
has
long as you
been
would want to?
because I always had hopes of getting that position. So it
Yeah.
was disappointing, but it wasn't. It was never devastating because I always had a job.
Yep.
Even when I interviewed, I was coming out of a job with somebody
Yeah.
and going back into the job after the interview. So and I understand. Uh, it's not in the cards for everybody. It's
Yeah.
just everybody can't do it. I mean, I've sit there and watched Bob McAdoo on the sidelines, who's probably one of the NBA's greatest.
Yeah.
He never got a shot. Patrick Ewing never got a shot.
Exactly.
There's a long list of people, and so I was I got called. Well, I had probably like 7 or 8 interviews,
Yeah.
and I was finalist for the Phoenix Suns and the when Terry Porter got it, I was finalist for Minnesota,
Yeah,
so to
yeah,
speak,
yeah,
with Kurt Rambis got it.
yeah.
I was finalist in Portland when Terry Stotts got it.
I
So
know. I'm
I've
thinking of
been
these.
right there, man. I've been right there. And the chips came up a different way, but the Lord has still blessed me.
No, and he has, and sometimes it's just about the right situation. Not that you're not the right candidate, and I always
Right,
wanted
right.
to give you a shout out because you have been the perfect basketball mind and character as well. Okay, you do a lot of travels, probably too many travels. When you see a certain city is coming up next, what city do you like to get a good meal in, Elston?
Oh man, I love New Orleans.
Okay.
Now it's a good meal and it's a healthy meal. Now, which one is? I mean, that I don't know how healthy it is, but it certainly is good. So New Orleans, I love Memphis. Obviously, I coached there for 3 years, but who does not like barbecue? I'm from the South, so those are my cities as far as eating. Obviously, the Los Angeles and New York City and Miami. Those are big time flair cities in terms of getting good meals.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Okay, now you're also probably an expert traveler. What travel tips, even though I know you travel on a team plane, so it's a little bit different than having to go through the public airport all the time, but
Right.
you still have to have some like travel tips. What's Elston's big one?
Well, for me, because I'm you call it experienced. I call it just a little bit old, man. I have to have my compression socks, man. I got to wear my my compress. I got to keep the blood flowing on these long flights. So I do wear compressions all the time. Sometimes they're up high like stockings. Sometimes they're regular socks. You have to keep. It doesn't matter where you're going. You have to keep winter. Well, like when I leave in Minnesota, when I leave home, Minneapolis,
Yep.
and I'm going to Miami. You have to have winter clothes and summer clothes in your bag. So you pack both seasons no matter where you're going.
Yeah. 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 We know how cold you get it in Minnesota. There's cold and then there's Minnesota cold.
Yeah, then there's Minnesota cold, and I mean
Right.
it is a difference.
Well,
Brutal.
Elston, I appreciate. Oh, I did want to ask you one more thing. We think everybody has a hobby. You might not have time, but is there something we don't know about you? Is there a hobby in your life?
Well, I've got multiple.
Okay.
I've been playing a bass guitar. I've been in music all my life. I was in the
Okay.
marching band in school, in the jazz band in school. I've been playing a bass guitar for 40 years. I ride a motorcycle. I have a chopper. I have you've probably seen that, but I have a
That's right.
chopper and a trike. So I've been riding a motorcycle for forever and a day. That's one of my favorite pastimes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, so I stay busy in the all in my downtime.
All right. And the final one, how many times have you been ejected from the sidelines as a coach?
As a coach,
Yeah.
none. I haven't, but I tell you, I've got some stories, but I have not been ejected. I've
Okay.
only had actually one tech as a player, and I've got good relationships with all the referees. Matter of fact, quite a few of the referees come up through the CBA, which I was part of the CBA for a
Yeah.
couple of years at the end of my playing career. But just one quick story. I was on the sideline when I was with Sacramento Kings with John Wetzel, and we're sitting there, and referee made a bad call, and as he passed us, John Wetzel just was letting him have it, just chewing him down. And then he went to writing. So the referee looked over, and he was writing, but I still had my look on the face, like, and so he thought I said it, and he chewed me out, man. He's getting ready to tee me up, and he just didn't do it. But I learned that you got to say what you got to say in and out real quick
So so you're the holdback coach, right? So who was the hardest head coach to make sure that you held him back strong enough?
to make sure that I held him back.
Yeah. So
Well,
you could keep him in line,
well, all
try
the
to
coaches,
protect him.
all coaches go through our head coaches. They got a little something in them that when they cup runneth over. they lose it.
Yeah.
And all of them do. Chris Finch is that way. He'll get up there. Well, you got to go get him. Michael Noy does a good job of doing that. Alvin Gentry was just man. I'm look. Come
I
on back.
remember.
And Dave Yeager would get excited. Rick Alderman was just cool. He he really got up out of his seat, man. So I didn't have to worry about him too much. I spent 10 years with him and 6 years as his first assistant and didn't have to worry about him. He was polished.
Well, I've always thought of you as Mr. Smooth. You've done a great job, Elston. I've it's been a pleasure to know you over the years, and I promise I'm going to come this year and sit on the sidelines and watch you guys in action. Okay.
Come on, Dave. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, and thank you for keeping up with me and being in my corner the whole way.